Welcome to Nutrition Equity, the podcast where it's, oh, are we? Did we go? Yeah, looks like we are. Okay, welcome to Nutrition Equity, the podcast where we explore the crucial intersection between healthcare and nutrition. I'm your host, Joanna, and in each episode, we will delve into the inspiring stories of and challenges faced by patients and covered with covered conditions as we strive for equal access to medical nutrition. Today we have a special guest who we will be sharing our journey with who will be sharing her journey with cystic fibrosis. Before we delve into her story, though, let's discuss the topic that affects countless individuals and families across the United States. And the Medical Nutrition Equity Act is a bill that is currently we're trying to reintroduce it to law. I'm looking for a House Republican right now. We are looking for, it would cover medical foods, formula, and vitamins for those who need it. Throughout the podcast series, we will explore stories. Let's see. Okay. Of patients who will be directly impacted by Medical Nutrition Equity Act and the transformation powered by medically necessary nutrition and its role in managing various conditions, empowering individuals and to lead healthier lives. Today we have the privilege of speaking with Jessica, who will be telling her story about cystic fibrosis. Jessica, can you tell us about what cystic fibrosis is?
Yeah. So cystic fibrosis is a genetic lung and digestive disease that you inherit. You're born with it. So both parents have to carry the gene for you to have a chance to have CF. It affects both your lung. It really affects every organ in your body. Like there's always like a trickle down effect from CF that I can get into in a little bit, but mainly affects your lungs and your digestive tract. There's about, I want to say, I think 1,800 different mutations of CF, but double delta F508 is the most common. It covers about 90% of the population. And some people have both lung and digestive issues. Some people only have lung and some people only have digestive. So I actually have both, but we can get into my story in a little bit. But that's kind of the basic. So basically what it does is it's a sweat chloride problem. Your body can't process sweat chloride correctly, and it ends up causing thick, sticky mucus that builds up in your lungs and other areas of your body. And in your lungs, it can cause severe lung infections. You can grow all kinds of bacteria that are very deadly. And for your digestive tract, it can cause a list of problems that are about this long, like a mile long, that we can get into specifically. I can get into a lot of them when I talk about my journey because I have both. So,
okay.
That's about if I actually sat there and told you what CF was like we'd be here all day. That's about the sum up.
Gotcha. Okay. So, can you tell us about your journey with cystic fibrosis and when you were diagnosed and how it has impacted your life?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at 3 years old, and how they even thought to test me for CF was my bowels prolapsed. My bowels fell out. It's very common with CF patients because of our digestive issues. And so they sent me down to Johns Hopkins, and I got a sweat test, and it came back like, yep, she's got CF. So diagnosed at 3, it's been quite a journey. I have... an array of issues. I'm almost 40, so I wasn't supposed to see 10. So CF is considered a childhood killer disease, but there's actually now more adults living with CF than there are kids because of all the advances in meds. But in the 80s, when I was diagnosed in 1985, I didn't really know crap about CF, and it was a crapshoot on whether or not you were going to make it. You know what I mean? So they told my parents, like, she's probably not going to see 10 years old. And then 10 came and 10 went. And they were like, well, she's probably not going to see 16. And then 16 came and 16 went. And they're like, well, she's probably not going to see 18. And I just kept proving a point and proving them wrong and being like, yeah, no, homie, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm stubborn. I'm not going. You gonna
Yeah.
be with me for a long time. So I just turned 40 um, in November, and that was my husband threw me a surprise birthday party, and my mom made this like huge speech about me having CF and the battles that I fought and how I made it this far, and she made me cry. But so yeah, my journey with CF has been quite interesting. I actually didn't. Well, it kind of flows into question number 2, which is how CF affects different aspects. But I technically have both lung and digestive problems. My lung problems weren't really prominent when I was younger until I got into like my early 20s, and then it started to get progressively worse as I got older. I always had a baseline lung function number in the 90s and up to 100 and sometimes past 100. Um, so for that, my baseline to kind of slowly decline over the years, especially in my 30s, was like scary. You know what I mean? And then I have the digestive issues that are still giving me problems till this day. Like, it is my lungs, with all the new advancements in medicine, especially the medicine Trikafta. My lungs are doing fantastic, but my GI tract is still trying to take me out on a daily basis. So my journey with CF has been quite an interesting one, because if you see me as a kid, you wouldn't have any clue that I was sick. You know what I mean? And I wasn't. I grew up on a farm, so I grew up around animals and germs and playing in the dirt and doing all this crazy stuff that is so like taboo in the CF world. And it actually helped me build the immune system that I have. So I'm kind of glad my parents didn't put me in a bubble. But in my 20s, it started to change. And some of that was me. I hit a rebellious phase. I think everybody with a chronic illness at some point in their life hits a rebellious phase.
Yes.
I hit it hard. Like, I drove that shit into a brick wall at 1,000 miles an hour, partying and stuff. But you know, even when I wasn't, like, my lung function and my digestive issues and things like that, you know, progressively got worse. I was fighting a lot more battles. I was in and out of the hospital a lot. I had never been in the hospitalized once for CF, except for 12 years old. I got to kind of backtrack a little bit. I got a feeding tube at 12 because I wasn't gaining weight. We can get into that with the aspects of CF, but so I wasn't gaining weight. I got a feeding tube at 12, but that was my only hospitalization. It was technically like outpatient surgery until my 20s. And then it was just a roller coaster of I'm good, I'm not, I'm good, I'm not, I'm good, I'm not. And sometimes it was like 3, 4 times a year I was in the hospital. So it's definitely been a roller coaster in my adult life and a completely different journey than it was in childhood for sure. But I'd like to say that, like, even though I'm having some like problems now that I didn't have before, it's definitely way better than it was pre Trikafta from where I was sitting pre to that drug coming out to now. Like, I feel like I'm a kid again now versus even though despite my couple problems here and there, compared to what I was in my early 20s and, you know, the battles I was fighting then. Uh, so I kind of am thriving now in my 40s, and I shouldn't be per, you know, statistics. So you know, it's a wild ride. CF is not it's not an easy feat. It's definitely a roller coaster, and it has taken me on some journeys that I ain't trying to go back to. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Proper nutrition is crucial in managing cystic fibrosis. Could you talk about the role of specialized nutrition in your treatment plan and how it's benefited you?
Yeah. So I kind of tied the aspects of CF and proper nutrition into one because all of the things like CF, like I said, affects your lungs, your digestive tract, you know, and all of those things tie into proper nutrition and all of that stuff. So CF patients don't absorb calories, fat, protein, vitamins, minerals, all of that stuff. They don't absorb it properly. They only technically absorb, statistically speaking, about 30% of what they intake. So really, we're supposed to eat about 3 times as much as a normal person to really just gain a normal person's caloric and fat intake, right?
Mhm.
So the way I've always put it for years is my doctor encourages me to eat McDonald's because what's bad for you is actually good for me. Um, it's kind of weird. So we need the high fat, high calorie, like double portion meal diet, things like that. And I'm 105, 107 pounds soaking wet, and that's on a good day. I haven't. I've actually managed to maintain 3 digits the last probably let's see, I'd say 5 or 6 years, and I never maintained 3 digits in my life. And that's thanks to a few things. But so yeah, so we don't absorb things correctly. Like I said, I got a feeding tube when I was 12. I wasn't gaining weight. I We have to take enzymes when we eat. So I take one called I actually just switched it. Uh, Called Pertzy. So there's that, there's Creon, there's pancrease, there's Zenpep. There's quite a few digestive enzymes that we have to take every single time we eat. And that's so it can help absorb our food and digest our food properly. And if we miss those, the pain and the issues that we have from missing them is not a ride you want to go on. So with not absorbing it right, my doctors were like, and I I had an appetite. I was a farm girl. Like I ate, you know what I mean? I just wasn't Malnutrition is a big thing in cystic fibrosis. It's a huge thing. And my doctors were basically like, she needs to get a feeding tube or she's gonna die. And I was 12. So you're talking preteens, right?
Mhm.
And my preteen self went, I don't think so. I'm already dealing with enough crazy in school and people making fun of me and this and that and whatever and blah blah blah. I don't need a feeding tube to add on to that, right? But I had to get it. Long story short, I got it, and I actually it's part of me, and like I share my story all the time, and I talk about my journey with self image and having a feeding tube, and I've modeled for years. I've done all kinds of stuff and embraced the fact that I had one, right? So it took a while to go through that journey, but so yeah, got the tube. When I tell you in the last, let's see, I got it in 1994. So do the math on that. Um, for so like almost 30 years, I'd say, right? Uh, has saved my life more times than I care to count, right? When I've
Mhm.
been sick, when I've had appetite issues, when I didn't want to eat, just trying to maintain my weight, anything you could list on that from the benefits of a feeding tube, it has saved my life. Now, some people with CF will get a feeding tube, gain a bunch of weight, and then get it removed. I never did that. A, because I never gained that much weight. But B, even if I did, I would never get it removed because I knew there was going to be some point in my life where it was going to be beneficial to me and save my life yet again. You know what I mean? So I'm just
Mhm.
not one of those that like got it and got it removed and needed it again or whatever the case may be. So you can see my pump in the background.
Mhm.
Uh, I take a formula called Nutrient 2.0. I eat about, well, I'd say I run about 4 cans of that through my pump a day. Sometimes it's about two around breakfast or lunch, depending on what I choose, and two at nighttime for like a bedtime snack. Now that's a vast difference from when I was a kid. So when I was a kid and I first got my feeding tube, um, my nutrition journey with this has been kind of wild because so I was given like 5 cans of that nutrient pumped in overnight for like 8 hours a night constantly for years. So you're talking like from about 12 to 18. And I hit 18 years old, and your body is constantly changing. It's constantly adapting. It's constantly switching from, whether it's your hormones from going teenager to older young adult or, whatever young adult to where I'm at now at 40, your body's always changing, right? So my body at 18 kind of went, we don't like this anymore. I wasn't eating during the day. I was very lethargic. I was tired. I didn't have no energy. And I knew it was like having all of that nutrition pumped into me overnight, uh, doing it. You know what I mean? It was actually elevating my sugars and making me like having them very high, and like just making me blah, right? And I wasn't eating anything until like 6 o'clock the next day, like in the evening. Like I
Mhm.
wasn't eating at all. And I finally looked at my team and I said, I can't do this anymore. Like I quit. Like I'm not doing the feeding tube anymore. It's not happening. It's not benefiting me. I'm getting no nutritional benefit out of this at all. and I just quit. And if we're tracking back to the like hospitalizations in my early 20s, they were basically saying like you have to hook up because believe it or not, weight gain, your weight and your lung function correlate. So if you have weight on you and you're like maintaining your weight, your lung function is going to do better. It's why exercise is so important for people with CF. Like cardio is kind of like the oxymoron. Like cardio is going to burn the calories that I don't need to burn. I have to replace them, right? But cardio also helps my lung function. So it's kind of like a catch 22. So in my early 20s, my doctors went like, can you please start using your feeding tube again? I'm begging you. Like, you need this nutrition. It's important. And I'm like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it my way. So in true Jess fashion, I'm doing things my way 100%, right? I've always had a say in my medical decisions, even as a kid. Like, I always had a say in it. They always listened to me. And my input was always counted, right? So I was like, listen, let me do it my way. I want to do this as like at nighttime, like as like a bedtime snack. So not as many cans, can't tolerate that many cans getting pumped in, right? And you're talking like 500 milliliters. One can is 500 milliliters at 250 milliliters at 500 calories a pop. It's a high fat, high calorie, high protein, right? And five of those, you'd just be a beached whale. Like it's just not doing it. So I do 2 cans at night for about 3 hours and it runs slowly. And it's usually at night when I'm like winding down, right? I'm watching TV, I'm chilling out for the night. I'm slowly like, I'm done for the day, right? It's my bedtime snack. I'm usually, and I'll believe it or not, like if I do it at night and right now when I'm doing it for breakfast also, I, um, I eat also. So it's not like filling me up. You know what I mean? So I can still eat regular food with it. That was the problem that I had before is it was filling me up and I wasn't eating regular food at all. And so anyway, that actually made a world of difference when I switched my game up to that. And I gained like 10 pounds like in a couple months. Like I was putting weight on like left and right in my early 20s when I switched my game up. And that has been beneficial for me and the way I do it for so many years. I just recently in the last year or so added in the extra cans in because I'm at a point in my life where I can tolerate adding the extra cans in at a different part of the day to get more calories in, right? Because I still struggle with weight. I'm 107 pounds. I'm only 5'4". I am like, I'm scrawny. I'm skinny. My mom's tiny and small, so I have like all kinds of genetics working against me, right? Like I'm not getting much bigger, but like I know I have the ability to put the weight on because I've been like 115. I just gotta get there, right? But anyway, so medical nutrition like that is important. So I have my feeding tube, but if you don't have a feeding tube and you're not at the point of needing a feeding tube, there's other things that are beneficial to you that I actually also use that other CF patients use that don't have feeding tubes. And that's like nutritional shakes, bars, and, things like that. So I used to get like the Orgain shakes. As a kid, I had what was called Scandi shakes. They got shoved down my throat as a kid. Don't drink them anymore because they had a really weird aftertaste. And when you have so much of them shoved down your throat as a kid, you kind of get sick of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I go through food phases where like I'll eat a lot of something and then I'll get sick of it and I won't eat it for a while. So I have to give myself variety so I don't get sick of something, right? And I still want to use it and get the benefit out of it. So I was doing Orgain shakes for the longest time, and I'm not sick of those, but I found that especially in the summertime, I like smoothies and milkshakes and things like that. So I got the Orgain protein powder, so I can.
You're
Sorry.
freezing.
Yeah, my phone rang. Sorry. Hold on. Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Your screen froze though.
Of course it did. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, my phone rang and I don't know what happened. There we go. There I am. Okay.
Yep. There we go.
Anyway, so now I do like the Orgain nutritional, like the protein powder, and I can kind of put it in whatever shake or smoothie that I want, and I get bars. Like I get Kind bars or the Orgain bars or the meal replacement bars, things like that. Anything that's like calories and stuff like that. I have a whole menu I can choose from through Healthwell because I get some of my stuff paid for through Healthwell Foundation, so it's great that helps pay for it because it doesn't get covered. But so yeah, those type of things for CF patients are crucial to getting extra supplemental nutrition in to help for calorie intake, fat intake, weight gain, all of the above. The other important thing is like vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. So we get like, I personally am on a multivitamin called Adex. I'm sorry, it used to be called Adex. Now it's called Decus. And I'm on a vitamin D3 50,000 unit replacement pill. That's kind of like a replacement therapy because I have I constantly have a vitamin D deficiency, even though like I live in the sun as a farmer, so it makes no sense. But so I have that, and a lot of things like I don't actually know. It's been so long, and there's like so much back and forth with my insurance and who pays for what and grants and programs that I used to be able to keep like really good track of who's paying for what and how much it is. And life, when you're a wife and a mom now and you got all the crazy going on, it's kind of hard to keep track of it. So I call my pharmacist at Hopkins and I'm like, just take just take care of it. I can't keep track of it. But so I know the Health Wealth grant pays for my bars and my nutrition powder and my vitamins and shakes and all of that. My feeding supplies is where I get a little wonky because I know that I think Medicare does not pay for that. I think Medicaid's covering it, but don't quote me on it because I can't really remember at this point who's covering it. It was like it accidentally got put under my health well grant at one point, and that's expensive. Like that is pricey, right? So it would like blow my health well grant. So I'm not sure who's paying for that, but so all of that stuff is like it gets wonky when it comes to like who's covering what, when, why, and how. And the problem is it's so important for CF patients. And I did post a couple of the survey questions about like that I told you I was going to post and say like, who has what issue and who gets what nutrition issues, stuff, and who's paying for what. And the most common one was they get assistance in helping pay for their nutrition. But you got to remember like these grants and these assistance programs, they're always like income based and things like that. So if you make too much, you may not qualify. You know what I mean?
Right.
I technically am on disability. I work right now. I'm trying to work full time. It's not really like it's not really working for me medically wise. So like I work from home, but like, so I'm probably going to go back to like part time and just still being on disability, even though it was, and I don't know what that would look like. Like, so let's say I said full time's working great for me and I can manage it and it's, the balance is great. I don't know what that would even look like for me under normal insurance because I've been on disability for so long. I've been on disability since I was 21 because at 21, my doctors were like, stop working full time or you're going to die because you're like working yourself into a grave, lady. So, so yeah, I don't know what that looks like for people under normal insurance, to be honest, because I don't know if they cover it. I don't know if they have a high copay. I didn't really have a lot of answers for the high copay question because no one really selected that one. So right now it seems like most of who answered me was getting help in some form or fashion, but how long that help is going to be, how long it's going to last, if their financial situation changes, if something changes in the program, if the program goes away. There's all these different kinds of factors we constantly have to worry about in whether or not we're going to get proper nutrition through our supplemental nutrition programs. You know what I mean? And one of those aspects that affects CF patients' lives is like appetite issues. So like I struggle with appetite issues all the time. So like I'm on a roller coaster with that too. Like how I said CF is a roller coaster. So like there's days that I'll eat more than a grown man. And then there's days that I'm like halfway, through the day and I'm like, my husband's like, did you eat? I'm like, I'm not hungry. Like, but all that's doing is hurting me because I'm not, as a busy woman, I'm not thinking about like, oh crap, I need to eat because I need the calorie intake. I'm thinking about, oh, I got to work. Child's got cheer practice. I got livestock. All these things are going through my head. So like I've struggled with appetite for years because I will get in these like, and it's not me doing it on purpose. It's literally like my body just going, you're not hungry. Like, so all those stuff, like and on days like that, that's where my feeding tube comes in. You know what I mean? That's where,
Yeah.
I can grab a protein bar. Oh, that's where I can grab a shake and throw it in because I got reminded that, hey, I didn't eat something. And on good days where I have an appetite, I'm throwing those things on my own anyway, because I know I can pack in the calories, right?
Mhm.
So it plays a huge factor in CF patients' lives, and everything ties in together some way, some form or fashion, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, proper nutrition, getting the calories, getting the vitamins, getting the minerals, getting the supplemental nutrition wherever you can get it is crucial to lung function staying good,
Mhm.
and your weight staying good, and malnutrition not coming in and playing a role. All of those things. And I know I'm talking your ear off, but I just get on tangents when I stuff because it's literally like information overload, because
Mhm.
so much that goes on with a CF patient, and none of us are the same. Like, none of us are the same. We're very,
Right.
very much the same in some aspects. You know what I mean?
Mhm. So can you tell us about the Help Copays Act? Because I know that was something that just came up recently. That's when I found out through the Every Life Foundation through their. Do you know anything on that one?
The Copays Act.
Help
Uh,
Copays Act. That's that they're trying to pass right now.
yeah, I have to look into that one a little bit more. I just found out about that one, so I haven't had like really a second to truly dive into it. Because when I
Okay.
go and I read about and I read these acts, I want to read like every page of the act. I want to see what's
Oh
buried.
wow.
I want to see what the specifics are. You know what I mean? My husband's
Right.
really that because he doesn't mind reading 1,800 pages of an act if he needs to see what
Jeez.
you know what I mean. So he's
Yeah.
my go-to for that if I need somebody to read something like that on
Yeah.
a really get the gist of it, because I'm like the busy one in the relationship, and he's the one that like works 12 hours a day and wants to come home and relax, so he has time to like sit and read. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I'm going to get him to look into that one, because it's definitely something that caught my interest and caught my ear when I heard about
Right.
it. Because copays, I think that's the one. Is that the one that helps the copays go towards your deductibles and things like that?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's supposed to
Yes.
be on the benefit card. It's supposed to help with the benefit card.
Yes.
So, but uh, I'm wondering if that would help on my condition too, because I'm having a problem with a medication called Cystidane that is enzyme replacement for me.
Right.
That Kaiser wants $400 for.
Yeah.
Uh, see, so moving on. Living with a chronic condition can be challenging. How do you cope with the emotional and psychological aspects of cystic fibrosis?
So I'm not your average CF patient when it comes to this topic.
Mhm.
I tend to be the outcast in the community when it comes to this topic. So, and it
Mhm.
kind of goes back to like kind of how I was raised, right? I wasn't put in a bubble. I wasn't treated like I had a chronic illness. My parents obviously cared for me, but they didn't treat me any different. Does that make sense? Like they
Yeah.
didn't, whatever. I had grandparents and like a great aunt and a great grandma that gave me a little bit of specialized treatment. But my parents were like, let me be a normal kid. Let me do all of the normal things. So I didn't really sit around and let myself sulk in it, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Uh, ever being raised how I am, um, I realized that like if I'm moving, my lungs are moving and I'm alive, right?
Mhm.
So I and having CF is kind of a blessing and a curse. So it doesn't really affect me like emotionally. Even in my like hardest battles, even like I have had battles that have almost killed me, right? But I'm a fighter. Like I'm kind of like one of those, I have a point to prove, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I made it to 10, I made it to 16. I've defied everything that the doctors have thrown at me. So at this point, I look at it as, yeah, it's going to have to do some crazy shit to take me out. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I definitely, do I have anxiety? I have anxiety and I have panic attacks, but it has nothing to do with CF, right? It's not CF.
Right.
So, and a lot of people who don't know me well go, well, you have anxiety and you have you have, this and that, whatever, like, it's because of CF, right? And I'm like, actually, no, it's not. It's something completely different. Like, it's actually like trauma from like an abusive relationship years ago, right? It's not because of my chronic illness. I preach to people and I tell people, like, you can't let CF stop you. You need to live your life to the fullest. Tomorrow is not promised to anybody. I don't care if you're healthy or not, right? So I've always just been like, I'm living my life to the fullest. I'm doing what I want. CF's not going to stop me. The only thing that CF has ever really truly stopped me from doing was becoming a nurse, because I didn't want to put myself in an environment around sick people to purposely, you know, pick up shit. I don't have a problem. Like, I take care of my family when they're sick, this and that, whatever. But if I'm a nurse, like, I never know what I'm coming across, right? So purposely putting myself in that environment around strange people was not smart in my eyes. And there are CF patients that are nurses, there are CF patients that are physical therapists, there are respiratory therapists, there are all these things, right? It just wasn't for me in my eyes. So technically, that's really the only thing CF stopped me from doing. And really having a full-time career, right? Because my health had to be number one. Despite what I'm doing and how I'm going about my life, like, taking care of myself even today, even though I'm healthier than I was like 5 years ago, right? It's still a full-time job. It's still more than a full-time job. It's 24/7, 365. CF doesn't care if you're getting married, if you're going on vacation, if you have a job, if you have kids, like, it doesn't care, right? Chronic illness doesn't care about where you're going at. But I've just never let it emotionally take a toll on me. There are other health problems that I have that have emotionally taken a toll on me. Um, One of them is a trickle down effect of CF and tied in with something else. So, like, okay, a trickle down effect of CF because of not absorbing vitamin and minerals correctly. I have a lot of bone loss. I have like osteopenia, and I have like degenerative disc disease in my back and a whole bunch of other things. And right at the base of my spine, now this is not CF related. They've actually found this when I was 30 on like my first MRI ever, right?
Mm.
Uh, all the x-rays I've had in my life and all the radiation that's been pumped into me, you would think they would have noticed something, but they didn't. And I've made that joke for years, because I'm like, guys, like, how many x-rays have I had? You didn't notice this, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, MRI, and they were like, so I have a bump at the base of my spine, and I've known it was always there. I just never knew what it was. You know what I mean? Just thought, I was like, well, that's just how my back is, right? It's actually a very small case of it's one of the smallest cases Hopkins has ever seen of spina bifida, where my back didn't fuse together at the base of my spine. And I was like, oh, well, that's nice. Let's just add that onto the list of medical problems that I have. So all of my nerve tension probably comes from that, on top of my degenerative disc disease and, the bone issue that CF has caused. So, when I go to places like Disney or a theme park or something like that, I'm like, in my 30s, I was still like, I need a scooter. I can't walk 18 miles in 3 days at a park. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
can't do I can't stand at a concert. I have to get handicap seating because I can't stand for 4 hours at a concert in the same spot. I have like if I'm and it's weird for me to say that as like a farmer and a gardener, because I farm and I garden and I do all those things, but I can also take breaks when I want to. I'm not standing in the same spot. I can't sit. Phone rang again.
Yep.
Give me a second. There I am.
Okay.
So, blowing my phone up. And
You still there? Lost you completely now.
yep, can you
Oh,
hear
there
me?
you go.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. This person's blowing my phone up. It's a family member. I need to tell them that I'm in an interview.
Okay.
This is the only problem with my phone being my source for uh being my source for things like this. So anyway, and even if I was on my laptop, it's a Mac, so it would ring on my Mac too. Like, I can't get away from it. So anyway, I having a scooter, like, oh, like, well, whatever. I can't sit in a chair for hours at a time in the same spot. I can't stand in the same spot, things like that. So, the only emotional toll it's had on me really is from a trickle down effect of having to need a scooter at 30, 40 years old to be able to go to like a theme park like Disney or go to King's Dominion or some, some, ride theme park, things like that, where I'm going to be there for hours a day. And I can't stand in line for an hour and a half if it's busy, you know what I mean? So things like that bothers me. Like it doesn't take enough of emotional toll to like wreck my whole day or wreck my life, but it bothers me like in the back of my brain kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like this is BS. I shouldn't need a scooter at 40. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I do, and I get it, and it's whatever, and I make light of it. I have a very dark sense of humor. So most people with chronic illnesses tend to have a dark sense of humor and a twisted sense of humor about it. So that's how I get through it. I use humor for a lot of things. But yeah, as far as anything else, like really like taking a toll on me, it hasn't. Now, will that change over the years if my disease progresses? Probably. You know what I mean? Obviously, this disease can progress and get worse as you get older. It's how, shit goes awry and, whatever. But right now and through my life, even when I was fighting my hardest battles, I'm a fighter. Like, I got a point to prove. You ain't taking me out. You may win the battle, but I'm going to win the war kind of girl. That's kind of my mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you have anyone supporting you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, yes. So my family, like on both sides of my mom and my dad's side of my family, have been like, I have like the biggest support system that anybody could ever ask for. If I need something, somebody's there for me, whether it's my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, God rest their soul, they're not here. My grandma, my great grandma, my great aunt, and my grandmother and my grandfather were always or were the key instruments in me getting my care at Hopkins. So like, they would take me to my Hopkins appointments, you know what I mean, with my mom down in Baltimore City. So like, they were like, and my grandma, even as into adulthood, would go with me, you know what I mean, before she passed away. She would go with me to my appointments. My team absolutely adored her. Like I can't even count I can count on less than one hand how many appointments she actually missed. And that's because maybe I was already down there. You know what I mean? And my appointment was the next day because I live about 45 minutes from the city. I live out in the country. So like, if I happened to be already down there at a friend's house and my appointment was the next day, that would be literally the only reason she ever missed an appointment. You know what I mean? She didn't care where I was at, what I was doing. She was going to Hopkins. My mom, same way. You know what I mean? Like my husband, when I got with him, completely and totally devoted to me from day one. When we started dating, I ended up in the hospital with swine flu for the second time in 2014. And that was the one that almost took me out. That was the one that actually almost died. And he has seen me be down in the dumps from day one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he is super supportive and, tells me to rest when I need to. Does he get a little bit desensitized sometimes when I'm doing well and I'm just like, because I've always been a go, 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 right? I have to be on the move. I have to be go. I'm a Sagittarius. We're adventurous. I'm like on a plane or I'm doing something, or I'm, just off in the world somewhere, right? And I've always been like that. And so he gets a little bit desensitized sometimes when I'm like really healthy and doing good and I'm just on the go and whatever. And I have then all of a sudden it switches and I have a bad day. And he's like, oh yeah, that's right, you're sick. You know what I mean? It's not on purpose. It's literally just I've just always been such a normal person that you wouldn't even know that I had CF, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's very easy to get desensitized when you live with somebody for almost a decade and you're used to seeing them really sick, but you're also used to seeing them really good and, having more good days than bad. And you almost forget like, oh shit, they have a chronic illness. Like, whoops, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's super supportive. My daughter is like my right hand. She's my shadow person. She is, mommy, do you need anything? Mommy, if you're having a bad day, I got it. Like, don't, sit down. I got it. Don't worry about it. Right. Cause I'm always like, I can't breathe. And here I am with an inhaler attached to my hand, like, carrying a laundry basket up the stairs because I got shit to do. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like, she's like, Mom, sit down. Like, she's the adult in the situation. Let's be real. My 15-year-old's the adult in the situation. So yeah.
So they think.
Crazy support system. Doesn't matter. Like I'm telling you, like aunts, cousins, uncles, like it does not matter. I don't have a single person in my family that doesn't support me in some way, or that I couldn't call if I needed it.
Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to others with CF?
Fight, get up, move.
Mm-hmm.
If you're moving, you're breathing, right? Don't sit and one of the things I will say, and I'm actually working on getting my podcast started to talk about CF, but there's other, like, I want to babble about all things, like my journey is CF and other things, right? So it's more like surrounded. Um, my CF's the main part of it, but I want to talk about other shit, right? So, but one of the things that I find in the CF community is misery loves company, right? And a lot of people want to sit around and be miserable and sulk about themselves. And it turns into bullying is a big problem. I don't know if you, in your chronic illness community, if you have bullying as a problem in your own community.
Oh,
But
yes.
it's a big problem within the CF community. And I have addressed it for years, and I have called people out for years. It's actually how I started my support group, because I got so sick of the bullying and the regular
And
original.
there's people who've committed suicide over formula issues.
We have had people that they were claiming, people were saying, "Oh, you don't have CF, you're not real sick," and then they turned around and like CF took them out and like they died. You know what I mean? It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
from suicide, but we've had people commit suicide. You know what I mean? So like bullying is a huge issue, and it is, people just want to be miserable, right? So I try to tell people, like, get up, move. Don't let CF, like, you may have it's okay to have bad days, right? I'm not saying you can't have bad days. I'm not saying you don't have bad days, because I have bad days.
Mm-hmm.
But like, get up and move, do something, right? If you're laying in bed, you're just laying in bed dying. You're not living, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do that. Don't let other people, it took me a long time to really get the attitude I have about bullying now, because I got bullied for a long time in school and throughout school. And it took me till about 14 to gain my attitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just like ignore them, move on. I used to engage all the time, right? I used to engage the bullying all the time, and it was so bad, so negative, right? Because I looked at it as I was defending myself, right? I
Yeah.
spent so many years defending myself that, but like when the online bullying started, like, so I would just like lose my absolute collective shit on people, right? And look like a psycho online. But I looked at it as defending myself, because that's what I was doing in my mind, right? But it's so negative. Like, you just have to like ignore it, block it, and move on, right? The block button exists for a reason. I've learned that a lot in my last 5 years, right? The block button is a beautiful thing. Block it. You don't have to see it. I don't tolerate bullying in my support group. I've had people try, and I call them out and I kick them out, right? I don't got to, we ain't doing that over here. We left that group for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't tolerate the bullying. Live your life to the fullest. Don't listen to people when they tell you you can't do something. You can.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a will, there's a way, right?
Right.
And I'm a little bit of a hypocrite with that when it comes to the nursing thing, but that is just me putting my health first. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
Lord knows I've made decisions in my life not to put my health first, or take it for granted. Lord knows that I do that a lot. But just, you can do something if you put your mind to it. It doesn't matter if you're chronically ill. I don't care if you want to, if it's something as simple as I can't go to a concert. Have somebody wheel you in a wheelchair or on a hospital bed, dragging your oxygen behind you. You can do it. You can go, right? Live your life.
Yeah.
That is literally the biggest thing. And if I had to give advice to parents, let your children be kids. Let them play in the playground. Let them go swimming. Let them have friends. Let them have sleepovers. I have come across so many parents that put their kids in bubbles, and all they're going to do is kill them, because the first time that they come across a regular, normal germ, it's going to take them out. I'm talking, I had a mom in my group one time who wouldn't even let her son go to the grocery store, wouldn't let him go to the playground, wouldn't let him have friends over, wouldn't let him stay the night anywhere. I'm like, lady, you are bubble boying him, and he is going to die the first time he gets the common cold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to, like, as much as like I get a lot of flack for this, and it's one of the biggest podcasts that I'm going to do, because I get a lot of flack for it, because I do, like, I grew up on a farm, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm around. I farm now. I have livestock. I garden. I play in the dirt. Waiting in dirt, germs, and shit all day, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I swim in lakes. I swim in oceans. I jump in the creek. Like, I'm around bonfires. Hell, it was the 80s. My parents smoked 5 packs a day around me. That's obviously not the norm. I'm not telling people to do that. But, like, it was the 80s. It was a different time. Cigarette smoke actually doesn't bother me. My husband smokes cigars. I'm like one of the rare people that I'm like, it just doesn't bother me. Maybe I've just done enough crazy shit in my life. It just doesn't. You know what I mean? But, like, so, like, stuff like that. Go skydiving if you want. The only thing we really truly is, like, as far as that's concerned, dangerous for us to do is scuba diving. So CF patients, we have air pockets in our lungs, right? And if you dive below 50 feet, your reascension can be a problem for any normal person, let alone a CF patient. So I'm sure there's CF patients that scuba dive, but it's one of the things that I'm like, you might want to think, like, just go snubaing. It's like scuba and snooping. It's like snorkeling and scuba in one. You can go down about 50 feet. You can get the experience. You don't have to risk it, right? There's ways around. So, like, just let your kids be kids. Let them play in the dirt. I grow Pseudomonas in my lungs. There's all different kinds of bacteria that CF patients can grow in their lungs. I know my Pseudomonas comes from me gardening and playing in the dirt and, livestock and animals and farming and shit like that. I know that's where I picked it up. You know what I mean? It's always going to be there. You can walk out your door and get hit by a bus. It doesn't mean you're going to pick the bacteria because you play in the dirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let your kids be kids. Let them have friends. Let them do sleep. Let them do normal kid things. That is like my number one advice to parents. Let your kids have a childhood. Don't treat them like they're chronically ill. Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are there some really bad CF cases? Yeah. You can let your kids learn and understand what they can tolerate and what they can't. And that's what my parents kind of did with me, right? And just not putting me in a bubble and letting me do my thing. I learned what I can tolerate and what I can't. And honestly, there really isn't much I can't tolerate.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. See, if it passed, the Medical Nutrition Equity Act would be a significant step forward in ensuring equal access to medical nutrition. How do you see legislation shaping your future, this future for patients with cystic fibrosis and other covered conditions?
It's going to be a huge help, right? So, like I said, like most of the people that I come across get assistance in paying for their supplemental nutrition things and vitamins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that can change at any point in time for people, like I said. If they get this act to pass, now I have to dig a little bit further into it, right? So, like, get my husband to read it because I don't have time to read an
Right,
entire
20
right?
years try and fight to pass this. Yes.
Right. So, like, I'm like, go get him to read it and, like, just take notes and, he'll mentally note all the important things that are, like, I need to point out, right?
Yeah.
So, but if it does pass and it is truly what it's supposed to be and what we envision it to be, right?
Right.
It's going to be a game changer because then maybe those grants that help people with certain things can be allocated to other things that people are struggling with, and we can kind of shift the narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
While this is being covered over here now we can focus on other things that we're having problems with, right? Because it's not just like nutrition and vitamins and stuff that patients are having problems with, right? There's copays for meds, like the Health Wealth Foundation
Right.
covers for certain antibiotics and enzymes and things like that. So if we can shift the nutritional aspect over to the Medical Nutrition Act, then we can take this and focus it on this, and you can get a bigger grant. There's not necessarily um you know right now for HealthWell, and I'm using HealthWell as an example because that's what I get, right? When I'm
Use HealthWell.
two separate grants you can get. You have the grant for your medical copays for medicine and stuff like that, and you have the grant for the nutrition, vitamins, things like that, right? So they're two separate grants. If we could get rid of the need for the nutrition grant because everything is truly covered under this, and it really is covered the way it should be, and not just their version of what they consider covered, right? Because we know the government and what they considered covered is yeah. So then we can shift and go, okay, well, now we can expand the grant program for the medicine because we don't have to split it. You know what I mean? So there's so many benefits if it can get passed and it covers your nutrition and your stuff like that. Like, there's so many other conditions that require feeding tubes or other specialty nutrition, and things like that need help also. You know what I mean? And some of the grants are only for CF patients, and some of the grants are only for people with other conditions, right? So we can get that to truly cover it across the board the way it should be and truly be equal. And what our definition of equal may not be what the government's definition of equal is, right? So we really need to make sure that this is what it's supposed to be, and how it's supposed to go down.
Yeah.
Then we can truly expand other programs to help other areas for those conditions.
Right. As the nutrition side of things is pretty important too, but it's
And see, this is what I'm gonna try to not go on a tangent with this one, but I
Yeah.
have to. So, like, I've been on disability for so many years, right? Medicare and Medicaid. I'm in a special program for Medicare and Medicaid because of like my condition and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Basic things. This is what I'm pointing out on like what the government doesn't cover. Like, I would have to get like an Advantage plan and pay for that in order to get to get vision and dental.
Right.
It doesn't pay for those things. Those are basic needs, important
Right.
needs. Nutrition is an important need for somebody like me, somebody like you. So
Right.
it
Medical
truly
foods, and so it's medically prescribed foods.
medically necessary.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there are things that they don't cover that are medically necessary. Like,
Right.
my teeth are wrecked from my meds over the years, and I have fixed them a billion times and they just fall apart, right? I need a permanent fix. It's $50,000 for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Government needs
All
to
this
cover,
your
but like,
so,
they
so
they don't cover basic cleanings. They don't cover extractions. They don't cover x-rays. They don't cover any dental like that. You have to buy and pay a premium for a different Medicare Advantage program that does that. And even then, the coverage is garbage. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I have to get vision outside of that just to get my glasses. Like, and on a fixed income, that doesn't really fly. So
Yeah.
things that the government should be covering for people who are disabled, or or whatever, medically or nutrition wise. And nutrition is just as medically necessary as vision or dental or anything like that.
Right. Let's see. Let's see. This is how has cystic fibrosis influenced your perspective on life, and what do you and how do you prioritize?
Whew. So that's a loaded question. How do I so it's funny, I am like a walking oxymoron with that, because like I have a very good patient, but at the same time I worry about other people before I worry about myself, so then I tend to forget about myself, so then I turn into a bad patient. It's a roller coaster, you know what I mean? So like,
Mhm.
nobody's perfect. So everybody with like a chronic illness or whatever, or even in the CF world, like, we go on like these tangents of really good like months at a time where we're compliant, we're getting all our meds in, we're doing all our things, we're doing whatever, and then something goes awry and we fall off the wagon, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's for a day or a couple weeks or whatever, right? Or we rebel, you know what I mean? So my perspective is like, I have to try to remember that I'm chronically ill. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I get into like just living life and doing my thing and being when I was single or whatever. Now I'm a mom and a wife and all that, right? So like, I get so focused into what I'm doing for other people in normal everyday life that I'm like, whoops, I forgot I forgot I have CF, you know? So like, every now and then my husband's like, did you take your meds? Did you take your meds when you eat? Like, so, and it's just because I'm busy. So like, I don't really have like a true like. It hasn't really changed my perspective on life because I live such a normal life considering I'm chronically ill. I
Mhm.
just bad patient every now and then, and not on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's see. Are there any misconceptions or misunderstandings about cystic fibrosis that you would like to add, like that you'd like to address?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few. Okay, so we're not contagious, right? So a typical CF patient, if you would have met me and we would have did this interview probably about 5 years ago, I
Mhm.
probably hacking a lung up about through half this podcast, and you'd have a lot of editing to do just to save, get people to stay, right? So like, but if you heard me out in the store, like, I'm actually glad I was on Trikafta during the COVID era, because like, people would have probably thought I had COVID. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
People, like if I've been out in the store and like hacking a damn lung into a trash can somewhere at Walmart and people think I got Ebola or SARS or the flu or something, you know what I mean? But I don't. It's just how my lungs are. Like, we're not contagious. I'm not going to get you sick because I'm coughing a lung up. You know what I mean? 99% of our sickness is lung exacerbations from the bacteria in our lungs. So, like, obviously, if we have the flu, if we have something that's contagious, we're not leaving the house because we're smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm not going out to Walmart and when I have the flu and I can get everybody else around me sick, that's stupid. Like, but it sounds like we have those things when we're out in public, if we're hacking a lung up and we get stares, right? We get stares. People stare at us. I've turn it into the what the are you looking at? You know what I mean? Because like, why are you looking at me? I have CF. Do you want my medical records? Stop staring. You know what I mean? So yeah, a lot of people tend to think we're contagious. I had a lot of I didn't really have a lot of lung problems, like I said, as a kid. So I didn't really have a lot of the coughing problems to make kids look at me weird because I was hacking a lung up. Those really didn't come to like my early 20s, like I said, but like being skinny and stuff like that was where I got most of the bullying. Just because we look okay doesn't mean we're not. We are. You know what I mean? So I'm talking to you right now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my back's on fire today. You know what I mean? Like, my back is like flaming right now. So like, just because I'm sitting here having a conversation or I'm out in public at a restaurant or at a family event or whatever, we are the masters of disguise, right? We have been able to mask the fact that we are not okay, even though we look totally fine. I get a lot of stares because I park in handicap spots some days. I don't park in them every day. You know what I mean? I park in them on the days that I need them. I don't abuse it, right? Even though I have the right to park in it because I have the tag, I don't abuse it. But I get a lot of stares from people when I park in a handicap spot. And I'm like, you have no idea what is going on in here, right? You have no idea the amount of pain I'm in, how much I can or cannot breathe today, so it just because we look okay, it doesn't mean we are. We're pretty good at like hiding it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Thinking that we're all the same, right? Like I said before, CF patients, we have the same disease. Every case is not the same, not even close. Some things can be similar, but like there's people who have it way better than me right now. There's people who have it way worse than me right now, right? That need lung transplants and liver transplants and other things going on, right? So we all have the same disease, but no two of us are exactly the same. Our cases are not the same. We may not, even if we have the same mutation, right? It doesn't mean we have the same trickle down effects either. One person could have CF related diabetes while I just have severe glucose intolerance and hypoglycemia. So I don't have CF related diabetes yet, which is also another trickle down effect of having CF. The list of trickle down effects is about yay high, right? So, like, which is why I didn't go fully into it because we'd be here all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people assume that because we have CF, we're exactly the same. The other thing, and this is actually not like a misconception, but it's a little fun fact that a lot of people don't know. CF patients can't be around each other.
Mm-hmm.
So can't be around each other because we can pass bacteria back and forth between our lungs that we cough up, right? So I can't give it to my husband, I can't give it to my daughter, but I can give it to another CF patient. It's really weird. But they figured that out in the 80s. So back in the 80s, there was CF camp where we got to meet like other kids like us, right? Like, how they have all the camps where chronically ill or disabled people can meet other people like them so they can feel like they're not alone in the world and all the yada, 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 right? Well, they had CF camp. So here we are in CF camp, right? And CF patients back in the 80s got chest physical therapy. So if we're in the hospital, we get chest physical therapy. My husband refuses to beat on me. I tell him that it's good for me, but he's afraid he's going to hurt me, right? So here's my mom in the 80s beating the shit out of my chest, right, at CF camp, and I'm hacking up all the junk out of my lungs I need to hack up out, but I'm hacking it up in a room of other CF patients.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was a giant visa patient outbreak, which is the mother of all bacteria for CF patients, right? It is like the one you don't want to get. And I got lucky, knock on wood, right? I did not get it. I did not get visa patient from CF camp. I got really lucky because it took a lot of kids out. Like it killed them, like gone, right? So they shut down CF camp. and they, 6 foot rule. That's where, 5 feet apart came from and all that, whatever. So 6 foot rule, not around CF patients. Are there CF patients that date? Yes. Are there CF patients that hang out? Yes. Do I do it? No. Nope. Not doing it. Not my thing. I'm not interested in getting somebody sick with Pseudomonas that doesn't have Pseudomonas. I'm not getting somebody sick with my strain of Pseudomonas that combines with their strain of Pseudomonas and creates a superbug that's antibiotic resistant, because that happens, right? So I don't want to catch their Pseudomonas or Bisapatia or MRSA or, Aspergillus or whatever, staph or whatever's growing in their lungs, right? I don't want Mycobacterium. The list is this long. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we actually just choose 99% of us just, God bless social media, because that's how we connected these days, right? Because in the 80s and 90s, we didn't, and early 2000s, we didn't have social media, right? We had MySpace early 2000s. I guess we had a little bit of social media, but we weren't really, it wasn't really till Facebook, the CF community truly really started communicating like this and talking like this, right? I had one kid. There was so 2 kids. I was friends with this girl, Lindsay. And this is before we knew we couldn't be around each other, right? We met at CF camp. She had CF. She lived near me in the same town as me. She had a brother, Wesley, who had CF. Lindsay died when she was 12, and Wesley died, it was several years back. He had two lung transplants, I think. But me and Wesley were in the same grade. So our school had to make sure that we never crossed in the hallway.
Mm.
My mom called. I should have put out a bulletin. Do not call me between this hour and this hour. So they had to make sure we never crossed in the hall, and they had to make sure we weren't in the same class, so we didn't get each other sick.
Yeah.
So yep. So those are actually really the main ones, the misconceptions and the little fun facts about CF that people really get twisted. I can't really think of anything else. Nothing really popped in my head, that really needed to be like, hey, this is not true. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. And that concludes their conversation with Jessica, sharing her story, her incredible journey with cystic fibrosis. The story is a testament to the strength and resilience of individuals living facing covered conditions. We want to extend our deepest gratitude to Jessica for her openness and willingness to share her experience.
Yeah.
See.
Thank you
See. As we wrap up this episode of Nutrition Equity, we hope that it has shed a light on the importance of equal access to medically necessary nutrition and the transformation impact it can have on the lives of patients. The Medical Nutrition Equity Act represents significant stride toward the more inclusive and nutrition compassionate and healthcare systems. One that recognizes the integral role of nutrition in the overall well-being. If you want to find out more, you can go to nutritionequity.org, where you can find out more information, read patient stories, and also write Congress. And let's see, thank you for joining us for this enlightening episode of Nutrition Equity. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to this podcast and stay updated to our future episodes, as we'll continue to explore the powerful connection between healthcare and nutrition. And you can also follow me on YouTube. I am at Rare Chef. It's rare_chef. Let's see. Remember, your voice matters in the pursuit of nutrition equity. We look forward to having you join us again as we share more inspiring stories and work toward a healthier and more inclusive future. That has been Nutrition Equity, and I'm your host, Joanna. And until next time, take care and be well. Thanks.
Thank you.